What's up, guys? This is a long-awaited video. I've had a lot of trials and tribulations with this car, but here's my 2004 E46 M3. This car is absolutely iconic. It's probably one of the most popular older BMW chassis. It's definitely gone up in value quite a bit in the last decade. I've owned this car for about a decade, and I've done a lot to it, and I've experienced a lot of failures and a lot of repairs and costly maintenance bills. But we're going to go ahead and talk about things that I love about this car, why this car is an incredible investment in my opinion, as well as just a visceral car to drive. First things first, you guys know that I have a 325i. So this shares a similar engine. This is an inline six. My 325 is a 2.5 liter. But this is a 3.2 liter inline six that revs up to 8,000 RPM, 333 horsepower, and a good bit of torque. I want to say 300 or 400 pounds of torque. I should know that. But, yeah, so this car is absolutely stunning. I would say one of the best colors in my opinion. I would say the only other color I would take over jet black would be the Laguna Seca blue, which is really beautiful. This car in particular has the competition style wheels. So these are the wheels that would typically be seen on the CSL. I do have a CSL trunk lid on the back here. I've got my business, got the Starlight sticker on there. But it's just such a nice day out. It's so nice out. It's so breezy. I figured, you know what? We're parked in the shade still. Let's do a video. So we've got the CSL trunk lid on here, which the CSL is the most sought after E46 M3 out there. There really aren't too many of those laying around. I put on a CSL style carbon fiber diffuser, and then the exhaust, which I really like the stock exhaust. Honestly, I have no issue with the stock exhaust, but I wanted to get a little more power out of the car and a little better sound out of the car. So it has a magnaflow full catback exhaust. I'm not even sure if I did headers on this car, but from the back profile, you can see as we back up a little bit more, we can see those fenders popping out a little bit more. The car to me it looks like a race car. Everything about this car screams to me race car, but it also screams to me subtle and boring. I think one thing about these cars is that they are subtle and that they kind of look like traditional boring sedans. That's one of the things that I like about it, because some days I'm not trying to look like I drive a race car all over Charlotte. I'm just trying to drive around, putter around in my nice old BMW. I'm just a huge fan of E46s in general. They get a really bad reputation. Both the M3 and the regular economy 3 series are kind of plagued with their own issues. All cars break down and die out over time, so it's just about preventative maintenance, and some things are just way more costly than others. One thing would be the rod bearings. So on the back side, as well, I did the same thing I did on this one to my 325. It's got the depot European style tail lights, and I moved the M3 emblem to be right below the deck lid. It would be a little bit higher up, but with that deck lid gone, I'm still not sure what I'm going to do when that deck lid starts to corrode and the silicone holding it together and the 3M tape holding it together finally corrode and separate. I think I'm just gonna go right back to having a stock trunk. Having the CSL style boot has been good for me to see what it would look like, but I don't know if I'm entirely sold on that style. I kind of like that the normal trunk is just a small little deck lid, so I might go back to that. But it looks really cool. At certain angles, it's really incredible looking. But honestly, it's really hard to beat the stock body styling. The German engineers that designed this car and just beautifully curved it. I mean, the fenders are just slightly curvaceous. Again, very subtle. everything from the side profile to the car and the mirrors and the front headlights and taillights, everything is very subtle. Nothing screams fancy or luxury car, but it is quite the opposite of a driving experience. When you are revving a car up to 8,000 RPM, it's really an incredible driving experience. And this is why, honestly, at some point I may sell all of my cars except this car. This car, for some reason, I am willing to go through failure upon failure and trials and tribulations with this car, going through things with it, such as SMG transmission issues. I will say right off the bat, I might get hate for this. This car is not a traditional manual. I can always manual swap it, but it is an SMG transmission, which means it has kind of the first ever F1 racing technology for paddle shifting. Now, a lot of people have complained about this. I actually really love the SMG, and I'm not just saying that. When my SMG was having issues, we found that it was actually the GPS, the gear position selector switch. And along with that, they changed the guibo and some other drive shaft bits. And the car drives and shifts really smoothly now. I haven't had a hiccup since. So that was an issue. The car has been in some fender benders that I've just paid out of pocket for because I didn't want to have the car fully covered. I'm going to get a lot of crap for that, maybe, but I just don't see the point in shelling out hundreds of dollars a month if I'm driving safely. The liability will cover me if someone does hit me. Again, I've changed out the corners with depot corners. I ended up putting the amber corner lights back in because I just thought it made it look more stock. I think the older I'm getting, my father's always told me everything looks better stock, and honestly, he might be right. Other than the ride height, I will never regret lowering this car. So this car is on BC Racing coilovers. Like I also, obviously, a lot of people that own BMWs black out the grills. I don't really think that looks good, so I've always left mine stock looking. When I bought my E92 M3, that had blacked out grills already, so I've left that way. But again, just like the 325, my M3 is slammed on BC Racing coilover suspension. I was around $2,000, all said and done. I can barely even fit it looks like I got a little scuff mark right here, but I can barely fit my fingers underneath the wheel well. But yeah, those in the competition wheels, I remember it was Mother's Day when I got these competition wheels. I drove about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get these wheels because no one had these wheels. And even now, these wheels are near impossible to find, especially at the price point I picked them up at. I think I paid $700 maybe, or no, I think it was double that. I think I paid $1,300 for all the wheels. And then I got a speeding ticket because I was so excited to get the wheels. So it actually offsetted the cost at that time of getting the wheels. I could have just ordered them online, and I wouldn't have got the speeding ticket, and I wouldn't have had to race around on Mother's Day. Luckily, my mom forgave me for that, but yeah, that was a crazy day when I got those wheels. So let's go ahead, and I'm gonna pop the hood and show you guys the engine bay. I wouldn't do that with the regular 3 Series, but this car has quite a beautiful engine bay. Here's the interior. I actually did a custom job on the door handles and the trim. So the trim is actually, I don't know if it was like that or not. There was originally a carbon fiber crappy wrap on it, and just last year I ended up taking that carbon fiber wrap off, and what I discovered was underneath it was this beautiful just shimmery black trim. And I don't know, I have no idea if it was stock or not. I haven't figured that out or looked up any information on that. But I want to say it's stock because the finish on the trim is really, really good. And I liked it so much that I just kept with it. And when I pulled that up, I had already done a wrap on the steering wheel, which is now all black instead of half silver, a wrap on the shifting area for both the cover and the this bottom plate right here. And then the doors I ended up taping up entirely and then spraying, and they are blacked out as well. So, and those were silver as well. So everything is pretty much blacked out on the interior. The interior is in really good shape in this M3. Honestly, I'm surprised. I know that I'm pretty sure that the upholstery at the top was redone, because my upholstery on my regular 3 Series is sagging. And then one more thing, this cockpit is absolutely incredible, guys. I've talked about it with the 3 Series. There is something about E46s that just looks so good. You cannot deny this. This car is so artfully put together, and the analog style looks so good. I'll show you guys a little bit sitting in it, and then I'll turn it on and start it up. Since it's been running, it won't be as loud from cold start. I do need to get the steering wheel rewrapped at some point. It's showing some wear on the steering wheel. I did replace these paddles myself. I can't even remember doing half this stuff, but it's amazing that I did. And I remember sketchy doing the actual steering wheel, because I had to pop off this, which is where the airbag is, and that was super sketchy. The way you do that is you kind of jam in 2 screwdrivers and kind of just feel around. It's the stuff that I did to this car I would never do again. So I'm glad it's done, and hopefully everything, the wraps and everything, holds up for a while. On the steering wheel, the wrap is holding up really, really good. Over here near the selector, it seems to hold up really well over here, but you can see it's lifted a little bit on the edge here. It doesn't bother me that much. It's wrap. It's not going anywhere since it's inside. There's no like weather damage to it, so it'll just stay like that. Yeah, I'm surprised how well this car is held up. Everything is in pretty good condition and shape. I could have sworn I had 103,000 miles on this car, but it actually almost has 110,000 miles. So it just goes to show I've been driving this car and having a lot of fun and kind of forgetting about it. But yeah, this car is just, I love this cockpit so much. So this is one of the reasons why I'll probably keep this car. The driving experience is so raw and so visceral. Like when I bought my E92 M3, I thought, oh, it's a V8. This will be, you know, even the door, when you walk in, it's just got M3 all over it. It's just fantastic. But when I got my E92 M3, which is a V8, I thought it was going to be a completely upgraded experience on the E46. I was shocked to find out, I really shouldn't lift it with this, but I'm doing it anyways. I was shocked to find out that it wasn't a better experience. It was a worse experience. It was less connected. And honestly, I feel the same way with my C63 AMG. Now the AMG is just so much raw power and torque. So that is still a lot of fun to drive. And that is a 6.3, and I believe that the E92 M3 is a 4.2 liter, I want to say. But anyways, right now the car stock makes 333 horsepower. So after I did the catback exhaust, and I believe I have the dyno stuff in here. I'm going to talk about that engine bay in a minute here, but I want to see the dyno, see if I still have that in here. Yep, it's over here. And you can see I have a pile of paperwork and repair bills for this car. I've got about 30 grand in this car, so almost triple what I actually spent on the car. A lot of the money is in the ownership and the preventative maintenance. Here we have the dyno though, and yeah, we're getting about 330 horsepower, basically back to stock horsepower on this car. So I'm pretty happy about that. The car is definitely livened up. I remember when they did the dyno on this car, they said that it was probably the strongest engine that they'd done a dyno on that only had a full exhaust done to it. It's had an SMG tune, and that's about it. It's lowered suspension wise, and then everything else has been preventative maintenance, changing out control arms, bushings, the guibo, At one point, I got a new hood, I got a new front bumper, new headlights. Like I said, this car's been in like 2 or 3 fender benders that weren't serious at all. But they've definitely costed a lot of money. Parts are getting a lot harder to find. So I'm really banking that my days of getting in any kind of fender bender accidents are over. I'm older now. I try and drive a little bit more responsibly. But okay, let's get into this absolutely gorgeous inline 6 engine bay. Some of you might notice there's something missing here. That was the secondary air pump, which I actually had paid to get that removed when they were doing work on the dyno and getting my magnaflow exhaust installed, all that good stuff. I'm pretty sure I have headers on this car. I want to say that I have headers on this car because I don't know why I would do a full exhaust without headers. So I believe that there's headers on this car. And when they did that, they took out the secondary air pump because it's just extra weight and extra crap in here. And maybe something else can go there in place in the future. This car would be absolutely insane to get turbocharged, but right now I'm not even thinking about that. Anyways, let's look at this incredible engine bay. I mean, this engine is absolutely magnificent. It really is a testament to German engineering, and it's just absolutely beautiful. One thing I would like to do is get the CSL style carbon fiber airbox, and a CSL style airbox that goes with this as well. That can definitely add a couple horses to the performance, but overall I just think it looks really nice. And 300 horsepower. I mean, it really depends, I guess, you know, how much the car weighs for the most part, but 300 horsepower is more than enough that I've found. And I have more fun in this car than I do in any of my other cars. I don't know why I have such attachment issues with this car, but I definitely think if I were gonna sell everything off, this would be the only thing left standing, and it would be well worth it. The inline 6 gets pretty good gas mileage. The car looks subtle and looks like it could very well be a daily driver. The body styling, I feel like a winner when I'm in this car, and I love driving it. Although the reality is that I've spent a lot of money on this car, and I do sometimes regret that. But, you know, one thing, I've lived and I've owned a really incredible piece of German engineering, and I've always thought about what it would be like if I sold this car. And I know myself enough to know that the rest of my life I would be thinking about this car, and I would be thinking about when I'm gonna get another one. And they are getting more and more expensive. So the fact that I was lucky enough to pick this car up for $13,000, and even though I've put probably $30,000 plus into this car, nowadays this car is running $25,000, $30,000. And granted, that's probably for a slightly lower mileage manual, but I think the price of these are just going to keep going up because you see less and less of them. Quite frankly, I haven't seen this car around Charlotte in over a year. Funny enough, I was at the gym yesterday and there was an E39 M5, which is around the same year that this car came out. There's a blacked out E39 M5 right next to me, and that is another car that I would just absolutely love to own. The E39 M5 is definitely like on my bucket list of cars that I would still want to own. Honestly, I would trade out the cars I have now just to get an E39 M5 so that I have the M3 and the M5 from the same kind of year. But yeah, if you guys are thinking about getting something that really stands out, highly recommend the E46 M3 is given a shot. I'm sure you can find kind of beat up project versions of this car and you can work on them. I know people that have done that have ended up with absolutely phenomenal examples of this car. I just love how this car sits. Originally, the car had CSL diffusers that were on the edges here. They just broke off, so I ended up kind of giving up on them. And so now it's just back to that stock, the stock front bumper. But yeah, guys, honestly, it's an incredible car. I've enjoyed ownership of this car fully. I've had a lot of crazy stories and experiences in this car, and I think that's a big reason why I feel like I have to keep it. So yeah. And these days everything is turbocharged and electronic, and I think a little bit overly complex. This is the last of a dying breed. This is the last of a naturally aspirated era. This is also the reason why I own the V8 E92 M3 as well. That's a 2008. The reason that I own that car as well is because I wanted to have pieces of history, and those are the last two naturally aspirated BMWs to ever be made. I think that's kind of important when you think about the history of cars and where cars are going. These are some of the last of their kind. So let's go ahead and start this guy up. You guys can hear the exhaust. Woo! In a minute. Definitely do some revs here, so I'm gonna set the phone down, do some revs. As you guys can see, that wasn't even at nearly full throttle at the upper 7,000, 8,000 RPM range. That was actually around 4,000 or 5,000 RPMs. So that wasn't even nearly as loud as this thing can get. The people over there are like, oh my God, what is this teenager making a ruckus with this stupid loud car? Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And yeah, I'm off to drive this thing out of here now. Peace. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you are thinking about getting an E46 M3, highly recommend it. This car is badass. It is an absolutely banger car to own, and if money wasn't an issue, I would have several of these cars. This is probably my favorite car of all time, honestly. I did own a 1981 Datsun. That was the car that I owned before I got into BMWs, and I absolutely loved that car, but my dad wrecked it. So one of my dreams would be to get my hands on a 280Z again, or maybe even buy the new Nissan Z. That car appeals to me a lot because it has the same body styling. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I could do some driving POV, but I think this was just gonna be a car review for the most part. So I'm gonna enjoy that on my own time and let you guys go. So thanks for watching. Thank you for supporting the channel. I know I'm branching out and doing a little bit different kind of content, but you can make content about anything. And you know, a lot of life is about, you know, failure. And I can easily talk about things that I have, or my success in collecting cards, or, you know, in the market, or with my bar business, or, you know, with the cars that I own. But there's also the failure aspect of it, which is that you have a lot of, for my cars, you have a lot of value lost with depreciation. You're paying for repair bills. There have been times where I just felt like I needed to give up on this car, and I didn't. And I'm really, really happy about that today, because I'm still enjoying the car to its full potential. The same thing with my bar business. There are days where we just don't make any money, and I feel like I'm in the wrong business and we should close down. And then the following day, it's an incredible event, and we make good money, and there's a lot of people packing out the bar, and I feel good about it. It's the same thing with my trading card experiences. I buy a lot of cards that are that I really like, and then I find out I overspent on them, or that I try and sell some of them and I lose money on it. And the same with the stock market. I overpay for certain stock and I end up sitting on a boatload of shares because I overpaid and can't time the market perfectly. Life is full of these setbacks, and you just have to get up and keep going. And that's kind of what this car represents to me. It represents all the failures in my life and hardship and hard times where I've honestly wanted to just give up on everything, and you can't. You have to keep on moving. You have to find purpose, and as long as you get up and you keep going, you can't lose. You've only lost when you've completely surrendered everything. And so that's what this car means to me. I mean, I know I'm talking about kind of existential stuff, but philosophic, but this car, anytime I felt like giving up on this car was a really low point in my life where I just felt like I was kind of an idiot and in too deep. And then, now for several weeks, car's been running absolutely fantastic. It's a blast to drive around, and it just puts a huge smile on my face. And that's all because I persisted to actually own this car and afford continuing to do repairs on it and pay for preventative maintenance. The rod bearings are really big on this car. The rod bearings go out, and that can completely cause your engine to go kaput. I think an issue with that is people not letting their car warm up. This car has been driven around all morning, so I know that it's warmed up. I'm not just gonna cold start an engine and then rev it up. That's the only reason I revved this car, is because it's already warmed up. But yeah, that's a big issue with the rod bearings. And then I didn't even talk about this yet, so I'm glad I thought of this, but this was a time when I thought about giving up this car. So the subframe of this car was cracked really bad, and the shop working on it was like, dude, I don't know if you want to repair this. I mean, we can definitely repair this. There's no guarantee that it's gonna stay together and hold true, but I had it done. I had subframe reinforcement plates ordered and then welded onto the bottom of the car's chassis or undercarriage. I don't know what exactly to call it, but the subframe coming apart is literally the high torque, the high end torque from this car, or I guess you could say the low end torque from this car, literally pulling the subframe apart because of how powerful it is, because of how much torque it has. So that has actually recently been checked up on, and the subframe is still good, not showing any cracking, and the reinforcement plates have done their job for now. But yeah, there's just been a lot of stuff done to this car that I'll probably remember after I turn the video off. But for right now, it's just a surreal moment to have a nice day outside. My AC is working again, which I just got fixed recently. And it's just surreal to be driving in this car. No check engine lights, no nothing. It's just driving as it should. A lot of people ask me, oh, wow, like you have an E46 M3, like how's it driving? How is the car? And I'm like, I'm completely honest. I'm like, I absolutely love the car, but it is an utter piece of crap sometimes. Like sometimes I just feel like I'm an absolute imbecile for owning this car. But yeah, I'm still here. I still have it, and I plan on owning it for decades down the road. I've already almost got 1 decade under my belt of owning this car. I purchased this car around 2014, maybe 2015. So it's been about 8 years I've owned this car. And I owned the 325 for 7. And the E92 M3 I've owned for about 5 or 6 years now. And the AMG I've owned for 3 years now. So I like to buy these cars outright. I buy them at higher mileage, and I hold on to them, thinking that's a better financial move. Lately, these days, I'm thinking I should have just bought a newer F80 and financed it. But you guys, one day I will own an F80 M3. So between the M3s that I feel like I have to have, the E30 is too expensive. It's out of my budget now completely. The E36 is also completely out of my budget, and honestly almost a little bit too old for me to want. But the E46 M3 I'd like to hold on to. The E92 M3 I would like to hold on to because that's the last naturally aspirated V8. but the F80 M3. Guys, I don't have one yet. I still want to do a review on one because my friend owns one. But the F80 M3, I think, could be fully the last of the dying breed of BMW M3s. Like, that may be the best looking M3 that there's ever been. So that's a car that I would love to do some kind of review on in the future. Anyways, I'm gonna head out, guys. Have a fantastic morning, make it a great day, and persevere in whatever you're doing. Half of the successes in life, they're coming with failures and perseverance. So that's what this car represents for me. Anyways, peace out, guys.